What's going on, everybody? It's your boy ForexFunded coming at you with another weekly analysis for this upcoming week, November 2nd, 2025. As always, links will be in the description. Join our chart analysis service. That way you can get, up to date analysis, my entries, and a nice chat room. But yeah, man, let's hop right into it. We have a few things that we are going to want to check out. First one is going to be the fact that we have a fresh monthly candle close. Obviously, we had a massive month, right? Wick to wick, we have $562, just about as big, if not a little bit bigger than the prior month. Um, Pretty big rejection, if you ask me. I don't think price is going to react much off of that, though. Like, I don't see us dumping, right? The lowest I would see us ever going is whatever 50%, 61% of this fib is, so 36.81. But we'll get into that more on a lower time frame. But one thing there is to note is, where did the monthly candle close in relation to the range? So in this $160 range, we closed above the midpoint. So that hints to me that next week, this coming week, we probably want to see a little bit of up before down, but we'll have to see. Going to the weekly chart, you see the exact same thing, right? Closed above the midpoint after tapping the low end of that range. So also, if you guys were wondering, like the fib that I had on my chart when I was, plotting, this box right here and this box right here, it's this low to our high at 50% and 61%. Obviously, the one that I showed you on a monthly chart would have been down here. This is where you get the 81. But based off of the daily structure, I have been using this point. So on the weekly, you can see we did tap that 38% and started to reject a good amount. I still personally do feel like we are going to come lower towards 38.46. I don't know when. I don't know how long it's going to take. It could take a lot of November. We should have another rate cut in December, so that does give the big boys, a lot of time to do whatever they want. Not the best example because it's not nearly the same movement, but from prior low to high, you can see you ended up coming for 50. You pushed all the way back up, could not break top, and then you came back down for 61 before, you know, extending that consolidation phase and breaking up. So that's basically what I'm looking to see. Massive move. You're gonna want a correction to sustain that. So at some point, yes, I do think we'll tap into those golden zones right there. Going to the daily, like I mentioned, the reason why I say the structure, I start the point from here, is because I like to use points that have not already given a golden zone or lower, right? This low to this high has used golden zone, right? So that tells me you don't want to use that. Now, obviously, if you go from here to here, you get a golden zone, but we're looking at the entire move, right? So that entire move is where you get that fib from. But yeah, so here on the daily, we can see that after 2.5 to 3 days down low, we got that nice big bullish candle. Friday retested the golden zone of that push, right? So that also hints to us that we probably want a bit more upside. If you were to say how high, think about that prior push that I showed you guys, right? So over here, from the low to the high, right? You tapped 50 and then you pushed up very strong. You formed a double top. That doesn't really matter. But look at from your high to your low. It's going to be really hard to see. Okay, let me do this. Let me get rid of this. Where did you end up coming back to? You came back to 786, which is another very valid fib, right? You came, I don't know if you tapped it. You were just really close to 786 and you started rejecting to go back lower, right? You weren't able to break higher, so it's telling you at a minimum you're going to come and test the lows, right? This is not you have a high, you have a low, and then you made a lower high. So you're going to come for at least a higher low or possibly that lower low, right? And then based off that same fib, you would have still been looking at that same fib. You came to 61, right? So that's what I meant by look back to what might happen. So fib from your high to your low gives you a nice golden zone to be looking at, right? That golden zone would be from 41.34 to 41.93 with the possibility, if they want to stretch time, of that 42.76, right? So if we do get that nice bullish volume, I will be looking to use this fib. The biggest thing to note is that we need to get above the 40.55 range point. Once you get above 40.55 range point on what I would call an hour time frame, you close above it on an hour, you should be good to attack the next two range points, right? So that would be 40.95 and 41.35, right? 41.35 matches the 41.34.50, and the 41.75 range point is not too far in the grand scheme of things from 61. I say not too far because $20 on gold happens in like 10-15 minute candles every single day. You'll get a $20 move. So that's not far at all. Um, so what, like as I was trying to mention, what you're going to want to see is you're going to want to see that bullish push up. You're going to want to close above the 40.55, and then you'll be able to try and swing it up to there. And yes, closing above that range point will likely give you a retest of it. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's a major range point, so there's a lot of interest there, right? You can go down to 1 hour and see if that played out the past two times at a range point. So going above, we went above, you stuttered for a while, and then you just started slowly creeping up. You didn't really have any retest. Okay, fine. And then going down, right, you closed below it on 1 hour and then came right back up and then right back down. Also not the best retest. But here is one where it does work out, like what I said, where you broke down, you retested that area. So, take that with a grain of salt. Like I said, sometimes you do get a really nice retest, sometimes you don't, but overall, the range points do pay, right? You can just fucking look at this chart. Well, let me clean it up for you guys first. You can look at this chart and you can see the range points and see how, even with all of this clusterfuck, for the most part, you do like to respect them, right? This massive fall down, okay, that's profit taking from the people who made massive gains from a $1,000 push up on gold, right? You came rejected from a range point, closed back above a range point, back to a range point, bouncing in between it, massive rejection from range points. Like, I don't need to go into more detail for this for you guys on YouTube. If you want to know more about that, join the Discord. But yeah, so let me put that fib back on that we had, the most recent bullish fib. So, as I mentioned, we ended up tapping into the golden zone at the end of the day on Friday. So to me, that does signal, you know, at noon, we dumped hard, $32. If there wasn't at least a little bit of buying intention, they would have just crashed it down further, right? But the fact that they respected it with a body, right? You can see the bodies. I don't know if the body closed above it or not, but it's real close to it. That should signal at least a little bit of buying pressure for you guys, right? So that also supports my thesis that I do think we do want some upside, right? See what happens at that range point, right? If we get a massive rejection, then you're probably just going to end up selling off and maybe expediting that large bullish fib where the 50 fib is right here at what is it, 38.50 area. Now, if you're able to break above it, let me put that bearish fib back on for you guys. If we're able to break up, that is when I am going to start basically immediately targeting 41.34, right? I would look for a break. I would look for a retest. Don't know if I'm going to get it. And then I'm going to look to target 41.34, which that could suffice for a massive push down. But at the same time, if the true intention is to push higher for a further retracement, you'll see that, right? Because at the end of the day, we have this cluster of lower highs right here. So there's going to be a lot of liquidity here. What direction that liquidity helps, I don't fucking know, right? But what I mean by what direction it helps is it's either going to help the sellers or the buyers. It'll help the sellers to push price down massively, or it will help the buyers because the buys will outweigh the sells. And since there's already a shit ton of liquidity there, if you're able to take it and trap those people or take their liquidity out of the market, you will get that massive push up, right? Same way with with the sellers. If there's already a shit ton of sells here and buy stops and stop losses from sells and shit, right? If you keep them in play and then the imbalance, meaning all these buyers who bought up, if they get out, then the market is the scale tips more to the sell, right? And the more outweighed you get, the faster the drop or the pump will be, right? That's basically in it just how the market works, right? If if there's 52 buyers and 50 sellers, right? Okay, you're going to be buying, but it's not going to be an instantaneous pump, right? It'll be slow pump, right? Example over here, if we had going up, if we had 100 people buying and 57 people selling, right? It's going to go bullish. It's going to take a while, right? Now, if out of those 100 fucking people, if 50 of them or even 25 of them hop out of their buys, making it 75, right? And then that 57 or whatever the fuck we said goes up to what, 80, then that's why you're able to have that massive sell off, right? Because the scales are tipped too far to one side, right? It's the easiest way I can explain to think about it. But I'm getting off track now. So that's basically what I'm going to be expecting for this week. I personally, like I said, I do favor the bullish bias for this week. Reason being is I think that the big boys are going to take their time to stretch this either 50 or 61% pullback, right? At the end of the day, we have until December for another rate cut, right? And historically speaking, most Decembers there is what people like to refer to as a Christmas rally, right? Like I think it's normally like the first and the second week somewhere, and they'll start a rally that will last about 2 weeks. People go on vacation, the week of Christmas, the week before Christmas, and they don't come back till New Year, right? So they like to stack their bag really high and then fuck off, right? So it would be very possible, in my opinion, for them to take most of November to get us down to one of the big fibs, right? Because I do believe that is going to be seen before we see a new all-time high, right? So at some point, we're going to see one of these fibs. Hopefully, we get a nice rejection, and then you will begin your bullish leg, right? The storyline that I've painted is that, say that happens mid-November, okay? That means we have 2 weeks, we'll say, to fuck around, right? What's the best way for them to fuck around and continue a healthy trend? Well, pull back to like a 50 fib, pull back to a 61. If I had to put my money on something, it would probably be 50 because then it still keeps a nice bearish structure. You get what I'm saying, right? There's the most recent lower high for this trend is here, right? I think that can be cracked and we'll be fine, but I wouldn't. The structure would look very messy if we ended up breaking above 41.63. So I think what we'll get is we'll get a 50 fib, and then we'll start falling hard, mid November. That way, end of November, we've already tapped one of these, and that's when you'll start seeing the news reports of whatever that website Kalashnikov or whatever the fuck puts the will you bet on random shit, like what are the odds of a rate cut. That's when you start seeing the odds are like 90%. Everybody thinks we're gonna have a rate cut, because ideally the pump will come before the actual cut. If you guys have paid attention to the last two cuts. The pump comes before the actual cut. The cut triggers a sell-off. Simple. But yeah, that's basically my storyline for the month, and in what I'm how I'm looking to capitalize on it, right? So if I had to make it real easy, I think this week, sometime this week, we'll come up towards 50 fib, right? Then after 50 fib, I personally will be looking for a rejection there. We could come to 61, still valid as a sell. And then I do expect a pretty massive sell down to happen towards 38.50 area, which point I would be looking for another massive pump up, right? Or like I say, maybe you just destroy that and you come down towards 3700 area, right? And then same thing, I'll be looking for another massive pump. That is my storyline for the month of November. It could happen quicker than I expect, but I don't really see that happening. So this is really more of a monthly analysis too. I mean, I showed you guys my weekly here. This is like the longer term what I'm looking for. Um but yeah, that's how I see things. I know people are like, "Oh my god, gold's selling off. Are we done being bullish?" I mean, yeah, for the short term we're done bullish, but the fundamentals have not changed. Nothing in the fundamentals says, "Oh my god, we should not have a bullish gold." No, we should have a bullish gold. But at the end of the day, you pump $1,100 in a month, what do you expect to happen? You're going to retrace a good amount of that, right? So let's see what happens. Um, that's your little cheat code. So fucking take a screenshot so I can get this shit off of my fucking chart. And yeah, like I said, hopefully you guys took some value out of this video. And if you did, if you didn't, if you want to see what we are about at ForexFunded, click the link in the description, join the Discord. I promise you'll be happy, right? It's not that fucking hard to be happy with us because we know what we're doing. I'm not here trying to sell you by posting pictures of Lamborghinis and giant big booty bitches and rings and jewelry. I don't give a fuck about that stuff. I don't show my stuff because what I have should not influence you to join and learn from me, right? Everyone spends their money differently. If I want to spend my money on Lambos or cocaine and whores or animals or my family, I can do whatever I want with it. It shouldn't influence you. But unfortunately, the sad reality is that if I don't show Lamborghinis and big booty bitches and crazy moissanite chains, that I don't know what I'm doing. So I guess I don't know what I'm doing, and you don't need to come learn with me. But at the end of the day, real recognize real. So if you understand what I'm saying, you'll probably join. But that's enough ranting for now. Hope you guys all had a wonderful weekend, a nice Halloween, and hope to see some of y'all soon.